Welcome to my channel. Subscribe and enjoy daily stories about cheating, revenge, and relationship advice. The day had been unusually draining at work. Maybe it was the endless meetings or the constant barrage of emails. Regardless, as the clock neared 2 o'clock, I found myself unable to shake an uneasy feeling. My instincts told me something was off, and though I tried to brush it off, the feeling gnawed at me until I couldn't ignore it any longer. I decided to head home early, hoping a quiet afternoon would clear my head. The elevator ride up to our floor was unusually slow, and I tapped my foot impatiently, staring at the dull gray walls. When the doors finally opened, I noticed something strange. Our apartment door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open, calling out, "Jessica. You home?" Silence answered me, and a chill ran down my spine. I stepped inside, the usual warmth of the place feeling strangely absent. The living room, usually bustling with life, was quiet. I could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator and the distant chatter of the neighbors in the building. I made my way to the bathroom, drawn by the soft whispering that seemed to drift through the closed door. My heart raced with each step. I stood outside the door, straining to catch every word. "I just don't know how much longer I can keep this up," Jessica's voice said, her tone more strained than I had ever heard. "I understand, Jess," came a voice I didn't recognize. "But you need to be honest with yourself. If you're unhappy, you have to do something about it." I could barely breathe, my mind racing to make sense of the words. The conversation wasn't just about dissatisfaction, it was about making decisions that involved another person. "I've been thinking about what you said," Jessica continued, her voice trembling. Maybe I should consider seeing someone else. I don't know if I can keep pretending everything's fine with Alex." The name, Sam, hit me like a punch in the gut. I steadied myself against the wall, my thoughts spinning wildly. This couldn't be real. My Jessica, talking about leaving me for someone else. The door creaked, and I instinctively pressed myself against the wall, trying to remain hidden. I heard Jessica's footsteps approach, followed by the sound of her pulling the door open. In that moment, I was overwhelmed with a mix of anger and heartbreak. But I forced myself to stay hidden, knowing that confronting them without understanding the full story could lead to more chaos. I waited until I heard the bathroom door close before slipping quietly out of the apartment. I stumbled down the hallway, my mind reeling. The weight of what I had overheard felt like a heavy shroud around me. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Michael was calling. I answered, trying to keep my voice steady. "Michael, it's Alex. I need your help." "Something's happened." Michael's voice was calm and reassuring. "Take a deep breath, Alex. Tell me what's going on." I explained the situation, my words coming out in a rush. "I think Jessica's having an affair. I overheard her talking about wanting to leave me for someone named Sam." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "All right, we'll handle this step by step. The first thing you need to do is gather evidence. Don't jump to conclusions yet. We'll figure out what's really going on." "Yeah, okay," I said, my voice barely more than a whisper. "Thanks, Michael. I'll start documenting everything." As I ended the call, I glanced back at our apartment. The once familiar space now felt alien and cold. The quiet hum of the refrigerator seemed louder, more ominous. I knew the road ahead would be difficult, but I was determined to find out the truth and confront whatever lay ahead. The days following my unexpected discovery were a blur of activity. My mind was consumed by the need to understand and, if necessary, retaliate. I found myself in a relentless pursuit of the truth, driven by the betrayal I felt. I knew I had to be methodical and calculated, not letting my emotions cloud my judgment. The first step was to document everything. Every suspicious text, every odd behavior, and every unaccounted for detail needed to be logged. I set up a dedicated notebook and began recording every interaction between Jessica and Sam that I could observe. "Morning," Michael said when he showed up at my apartment, his expression serious but calm. "Let's start by reviewing what you've gathered so far." We sat at the dining table, where I spread out my notes and the files I had started to compile. Michael's eyes scanned the pages with practiced efficiency. "This is a good start," he said, nodding. "You've done well to keep track of these details. Now, we need to be strategic. It's not just about collecting evidence but understanding the full picture." I sighed, feeling the weight of my situation pressing down on me. "I just want to make sure I'm not overreacting. I need to know exactly what's going on before I do anything drastic." Michael placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "We'll get to the bottom of this. I'll start monitoring Jessica's activities more closely. You should focus on any interactions between her and Sam, and keep documenting everything. If there's anything suspicious, let me know immediately." With Michael's help, I began to feel a sense of direction. It was a strange comfort to have a plan, even if it was tinged with the pain of betrayal. Meanwhile, I reached out to Lisa, a colleague and friend who happened to be a lawyer. We met in her office, a space filled with legal books and the faint scent of coffee. "Alex," Lisa greeted, her tone professional yet sympathetic. "What can I do for you today?" "I need advice," I began, my voice tinged with desperation. "I think Jessica might be having an affair with someone named Sam. I'm trying to gather evidence and prepare for a possible legal situation. I want to understand my options." Lisa's expression turned thoughtful. "All right, let's go through what you have. From a legal perspective, you should focus on obtaining clear evidence of any wrongdoing. Documentation is key. If it comes to a legal dispute, you'll need concrete proof to support your claims." I handed her my notes and the files I had collected. Lisa reviewed them carefully, nodding occasionally. "This is a solid start. Keep in mind that proving an affair can be complex. It's important to stay organized and precise. I'll help you understand any legal implications if it comes to that." Her advice was practical and grounding. Despite the emotional turmoil, having a legal perspective provided a semblance of clarity and control. As the days passed, Michael and I continued our efforts. I watched Jessica closely, noting her comings and goings, while Michael gathered additional evidence through his own surveillance. The process was draining, but it was necessary. I had to be prepared for any eventuality, whether it was a confrontation with Jessica or a legal battle. One evening, as I reviewed the latest batch of information, Michael called me. "Alex, I've got some new footage. We need to talk." I met him at a local cafe, where he showed me a video of Jessica and Sam meeting in a park, their conversation appearing intimate. My stomach churned as I watched the footage, the reality of the situation hitting me hard. "This doesn't look good," Michael said, his voice heavy. "But we need to be careful. There could be other explanations." I nodded, feeling a mix of anger and confusion. "I just want to be sure before I confront her. I need to know the whole truth." Michael's expression softened. "I understand. We'll keep working on this. Just remember, our goal is to uncover the truth, not just to seek revenge. Make sure you're ready for whatever comes next." As I left the cafe, the weight of the situation felt even heavier. I knew that the path ahead was fraught with uncertainty and emotional strain, but I was determined to see it through. The journey to uncover the truth had only just begun, and I had to stay focused and resilient, no matter what lay ahead. The days of surveillance and documentation had prepared me for this moment, but nothing could fully prepare me for the confrontation with Sam. The weight of the situation pressed heavily on my shoulders as I made my way to the cafe where we had agreed to meet. It was a small, unassuming place, with a few tables scattered around and a quiet ambience that contrasted sharply with the storm brewing inside me. Sam was already seated when I arrived, nursing a coffee and gazing out the window. His posture was relaxed, but the moment he saw me approaching, his face tightened into an expression of guarded surprise. "Alex," Sam said, standing up as I reached the table. His voice was steady but carried an edge of apprehension. "What's this about?" I took a seat opposite him, the anger simmering just beneath the surface. "I think you know exactly why we're here," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "I've seen enough to know that something's been going on between you and Jessica. I want to hear it from you directly. Sam's eyes shifted uneasily as he set down his coffee cup. Look, Alex, I didn't expect you to confront me like this. I knew you might find out eventually, but I didn't want it to be like this. Then how did you think it would be? I shot back, struggling to keep my voice level. Jessica's been talking about leaving me for you. How did you think I'd react? Sam sighed, running a hand through his hair. It's not as simple as it seems. Jessica and I, yes, we've been seeing each other. But it's not just about an affair. She's been unhappy for a long time, and we've been trying to work through it together. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Trying to work through it together. That's your excuse for betraying me. It's not an excuse, Sam said, his voice rising slightly. Jessica and I reconnected because we share a lot of history. We were trying to address some family issues that have been unresolved for years. This wasn't about trying to destroy your relationship, it was about finding closure and understanding. I shook my head in disbelief. So, you're saying this was all some kind of twisted therapy session? That's supposed to make it okay. No, it's not okay, Sam admitted, his tone softening. I'm sorry for how this looks. I never meant to hurt you. I truly didn't think it would come to this. The weight of his confession was almost too much to bear. I want you to end things with Jessica. Now. I don't want any more contact between you two. I need to fix what's left of my life. Sam's face fell, and he nodded slowly. All right. I'll end it. I promise. But you should know, Jessica is struggling. She's been dealing with a lot more than just our relationship issues. This is complicated. I stood up abruptly, my anger and frustration bubbling over. I don't want to hear excuses. Just stay away from her. I need to focus on dealing with this fallout. As I walked away from the cafe, the conversation replayed in my mind. Sam's words were a tangled mess, and while I could understand the complexities he mentioned, it didn't excuse the hurt that had been inflicted. The path to confrontation and resolution was far from clear, but I knew I had to keep moving forward, no matter how painful or confusing it became. When I arrived back at my apartment, Michael was waiting for me. His expression was a mix of concern and curiosity. How did it go? He asked, his voice gentle. I sighed, running a hand through my hair. It's as messy as I feared. Sam admitted to the affair, but he also claimed it was more about unresolved family issues than about our relationship. Michael frowned, processing the information. That's a lot to take in. You did well to confront him directly. The next step is to talk to Jessica and get her side of the story. It's important to understand the full context before making any decisions. I nodded, feeling a renewed sense of determination. I'll talk to her. I need to hear her explanation and see if there's any truth to what Sam said. The truth has to come out. As I prepared to face Jessica and unravel the complexities of our situation, I knew that the journey ahead would be challenging. The confrontation with Sam had provided some answers, but it had also raised more questions. It was time to face Jessica and get the clarity I so desperately needed. The atmosphere at home was thick with tension as I prepared to confront Jessica. After my unsettling meeting with Sam, I needed to hear Jessica's side of the story, hoping to find some clarity amidst the confusion and pain. I sat on the edge of our bed, nerves frayed, waiting for her to come home. The clock ticked loudly in the silence, each second stretching into what felt like an eternity. When Jessica finally walked in, she looked surprised to see me waiting. Her face quickly transformed from confusion to concern as she took in my solemn expression. Alex, what's going on? She asked, dropping her keys on the table and stepping closer. You're home early, and you look. Jessica, we need to talk, I interrupted, trying to keep my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. I've spoken with Sam. I know about the affair, and I need you to explain what's really happening. Jessica's eyes widened, and she seemed to stumble back a step, her face draining of color. You spoke with Sam. How much did he tell you? Enough to know that things aren't what they seemed, I said, trying to keep my anger in check. He mentioned unresolved family issues and that you two have been trying to reconnect. Is that true? Jessica's shoulders slumped, and she took a deep breath. Yes, it's true. Sam is my estranged brother. We've been trying to repair our relationship and deal with some family issues that have been festering for years. I stared at her, trying to process the revelation. Sam's your brother? Why didn't you tell me? Jessica's eyes filled with tears. I was afraid you'd misunderstand. We've been through so much, and I didn't want to complicate things. I know it was a mistake not to be honest, but I never meant to hurt you. Our conversations were about family matters, not about pursuing a relationship with him. I felt a mix of relief and anger, my emotions churning. But why the secrecy? Why make it seem like there was something more? I was trying to protect you, Jessica said, her voice breaking. I didn't want you to think there was something between us that wasn't there. I should have been more open, but I didn't know how to explain everything. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the situation settling over me. Jessica, I need to see proof of what you're saying. I need to understand this fully before I can move forward. Jessica nodded, her eyes pleading. I understand. I'll show you everything. I have letters from Sam that explain our family history and our attempts to reconnect. She went to her study and returned with a folder of letters and documents. As I read through them, the pieces of the puzzle began to fit together. The letters detailed a troubled family history, filled with misunderstandings and emotional baggage. They painted a picture of a fractured relationship between Jessica and Sam, and their efforts to heal those wounds. When I finished reading, I looked up at Jessica, my heart heavy but also a bit lighter. I see now that there's more to this than I realized. I'm sorry for jumping to conclusions. I was hurt and confused. Jessica stepped closer, reaching out to take my hand. Alex, I'm so sorry for everything. I should have trusted you with the truth. I know I've hurt you, and I want to make things right. Can we start over, rebuild what we had? I squeezed her hand, feeling the sincerity in her plea. It's going to take time. Trust has been broken, and it won't be easy to mend. But I'm willing to work on it. We need to communicate openly and honestly from now on. Jessica nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. I promise. I'll do whatever it takes to rebuild our relationship. I love you, Alex. I want us to get through this together. The path to reconciliation was far from simple, but as we stood there, holding each other, I felt a glimmer of hope. The journey ahead would be challenging, but with open communication and renewed trust, we could begin to heal. The road to forgiveness and understanding had just begun, but for the first time in a long while,